Welcome to the PIO Podcast, a place for everything public information related for police, fire, EMS, and local governments.
It was a good learning experience for a lot of us that social media is not real life.
But we have to remember the media are very rarely a target audience. They're simply that conduit.
Our words have impacts on individuals, and it may not be positive. So just being thoughtful and mindful of the words that we speak.
I think what's so interesting about this position too, and this job and this profession, is that every one of us is looking for purpose, and when we find it here, that's it.
To know is that a crisis for one is not necessarily a crisis for another.
Hello everyone, hope you're enjoying our content. If you would be so kind and click the link at the bottom of today's episode notes, your support in any amount will keep the podcast going. Whatever you can provide will keep the lights on and the podcast growing. So sit back and enjoy today's episode.
Good afternoon. Today on the PIO Podcast, we want to welcome Sonu Wasu. She's a public information officer for the Chandler, Arizona Police Department. Welcome to the show, Sonu.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So let's talk about real quick the demographics. Where is Chandler, Arizona located at?
So Chandler's a thriving community. We are located right in the suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona. So I'd say about 25 minutes from the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. And we are known as the community of innovation. And we have a lot of high-tech companies here in our area and a lot of manufacturing plants that come with them as well. So.
Okay, and how many, go ahead. What's the population?
Sure. Our population right now, 2024, is about 284,000 people at last check.
Okay, so pretty big community. And how many sworn and how many civilian professional staff do you have?
So we have about 530 employees at the Chandler Police Department, and that's about 348 sworn positions and 182 professional staff.
All right, so let's talk about your background. You were a former journalist, correct?
That is correct. I'm also a first-generation American citizen. I was born in India and raised in Japan, and I actually moved here when I was probably like senior year of high school. So this is, I guess I'm the first person in my family to live here in America. But I was a TV reporter for about 25 years. Got my start in Bozeman, Montana. My very first job, where I did everything from anchoring the news to shooting video, editing, writing, producing newscasts, one-man band, as they call it. And then from there I moved on just to pretty much all over the country, the Midwest, the South, then finally here to Arizona. I was a girl that pretty much lived out of a live truck and was at breaking news scenes everywhere. And I'd say for the majority of my career, I was kind of always lumped into being a police/courts reporter. So I covered a lot of law enforcement and court-related stories throughout my career.
How did you end up becoming the PIO at Chandler?
So in about 2021, I kind of was thinking about, life after news. What's that going to look like? Do I want to retire in news? Do I want to get out? And the opportunity just kind of presented itself. My first job as a PIO was in the town of Queen Creek, Arizona. Queen Creek is one of the fastest growing communities in the whole country. And I lived close to Queen Creek at the time, and they were getting ready to launch their very first police department. They'd been relying on sheriff's offices for services. So when they launched, I interviewed for the job and I got it. And I was the town's very first public safety PIO working for the town, which means I was a PIO for both police and fire. And it was really exciting because, we got to launch a police department, build a police department from scratch, and basically introduce it to the community and thereon. So it was a very, very, I would say the nation's newest police department, probably.
Oh, wow. That's kind of neat, building it from the ground up. Awesome.
Yeah.
First person there. And then how long were you there at that department?
So I was in Queen Creek for about 2 years, and then I kind of decided to try, since it was my first job out of news, I kind of decided to see what the corporate world was like. So I got a job at a Fortune 200 company working in executive level C-suite comms for the CIO of the company. And yeah, I didn't like it very much. The corporate life wasn't for me. I'm a very
Yeah, corporate life
people-oriented
can be
person.
tough.
Yeah, it was just the same grind, but different from TV news. But, with government, it's a lot like being a reporter, except you're on the other side. There's the storytelling, the dealing with the community and helping and making a difference in your community. And so I really missed that aspect of the job fulfillment. So, so to say. So when I saw Chandler PD was looking for a police PIO, I decided, you know what? I haven't been in the corporate world for too long, but I'm not going to miss out on this opportunity to apply for this amazing department. So here I am.
Absolutely. It sounds great. Are you the only person at Chandler PD that handles media relations, or are there other people besides you?
So we have a media relations unit. Now, before I got here, it was 2 officers, and then they had 2 video production people. And so I'm the first civilian or professional staff that they brought in. So it's myself, we have a sergeant who leads our unit, and then another detective. So the 3 of us kind of handle all the media relations, community responses. And then we have 2 other full-time employees that work as content creators and, kind of like video production specialists for the department.
Oh, so pretty decent size media relations department, for a good sized department too.
Oh yeah, in Queen Creek, it was just me. I did everything. I did all the social media. I did all the crisis comms. Everything was just myself. And then, we had some town people that helped as well. But everything kind of fell under me. So here, it's nice to have someone. I don't have to be on call 7 days a week. In Queen Creek, I was on call 7 days a week. And so here we take turns with that. And so that's definitely a lifesaver, I would say.
Awesome. All right, so let's do the walk through your typical day at Chandler PD.
Okay, well, so for our department, our biggest job is content creation. That takes up like a huge chunk of our time. And, unlike some larger municipalities, thankfully, we don't have a lot of crime here in Chandler. We are, in fact, enjoying some of our lowest crime rates in the history of Chandler. So, we don't get a lot of TV stations coming out here for big crime type of things. We have little stuff here and there, but so our biggest thing is reaching out to the community engagement, keeping our residents informed. So social media is a big part of how we do that. And everyone on the team, we are all hands-on with that. In fact, if you look at the Chandler Police Department social media platforms, you'll see that we're posting at least 2 posts a day sometimes. So we're very active on social media. In addition to that, our office is also charged with public records requests. So that can be very time consuming in terms of redacting documents, body camera footage and whatnot, making it ready for the media. We don't do public records requests for the community or the general public, just for the media. But, that alone can be pretty time consuming. We do some aspects of internal communications. We have a newsletter that goes out to PD staff, and all of us kind of help out with that. We put together daily reports of news briefings for our command staff and our chiefs, kind of keeping them in the know on what's going on, not just here locally in the region, but also statewide. We respond to community questions as we get them, and we also help organize events like Coffee with a Cop, tacos with police, Public Safety Day, those types of public events. Our office is also charged with putting together retirement ceremonies for our officers. So anyone who's retiring, we help put this little internal celebration together for them based on whatever they want. And we also help support all of our award ceremonies and kind of prep for that as well. And then myself alone, just coming from the outside comms world, I also help the chief with any talking points that he might need for events that he's speaking at.
That was something I was going to ask you is about, are you helping him do speech writing and stuff like that? Okay. Let me ask you this. You said you're putting stuff out on social media like twice a day. What platforms are you currently running?
So right now we're active on Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. I think we tried to delve into the Threads world, but didn't really catch on there so much.
I don't think anybody's delved into the Threads world very well either. So I wouldn't see that happening. Are what you post to like X versus what you post to Facebook, is it different or is the content the same?
So we try to modify it to fit that particular platform's audience. So we might change the wording a little bit. We might do reels on Instagram and then maybe just a photo on Facebook. But a lot of times, if it's really good video and if it's not that long, I'm a big proponent of put it out there, because it's okay if the Facebook people see it on Instagram as well. It just helps the reach.
Absolutely.
So, just whatever we think is the best for that particular post or story. We don't have any rules per se, but, it's individual, I would say.
And do you watch the analytics to see what's gotten the most attention or more attention than other stuff and then modify it based on that?
We do keep an eye on the metrics, so to speak. We use Sprout Social for a lot of our scheduling. So Sprout Social gives us that, the monthly report that helps us kind of gauge where we're at, what platforms are popular. And just organically, we've noticed that obviously videos do better on Instagram. Photos seem to do better on Facebook. We've noticed that our shorter videos, even some as long as like 5 to 10 second videos, seem to have a lot more views than the highly produced longer videos. So when possible, we push to do short, engaging videos. However, if the issue or the story calls for longer, whoever's interested will watch the full thing. So whatever we feel is the most effective way to get our message out.
Okay, great. So I recently did interviewed some researchers on a study about public trust in the media and local government. I was curious, how do you and your staff build public confidence in the community?
So that's a key role of our office, or any media relations or PIO office, obviously, is to build public trust with not just the media, but also our community, number one. So, for our sworn and civilian or professional staff that's out there, obviously building trust means being responsive, being sympathetic, and being professional at all times. Even in difficult times, not everybody wants to be pulled over or have an encounter with a police officer, but just the way they're treated, even during those difficult encounters, can go a long way in helping build that public trust. So one thing I will say is that our officers are always very, very professional, no matter what the circumstance is. And to just give you an example of that, our office gets emails from residents on a regular basis saying, so-and-so officer pulled me over for a ticket and I wasn't too happy about that, but I just wanted to write in to let you know how professional they were. And, and that goes a long way, because how many people actually take the trouble to log in and write an email and send it somewhere? So our officers have obviously left an impression on that person. So we look at that obviously as a good thing. In the media relations unit, of course, our sole focus lies in building public confidence and trust through social media and the posts and the events that we host out in the public. So basically, again, being responsive is huge for our agency. Our goal is to respond to media requests within 30 minutes, even if all we say is, we received your email, we're looking into it. We just want to let reporters know, hey, we got your message, give us some time. We'll try to get you the answer as soon as we can. Because, as a TV reporter, I often worked with so many agencies that just never got back to you, didn't respond, gave you one-word responses and were, just sort of, it made me feel like I'm bothering them, and, that's not a good thing, because our job is community relations, media relations, which means building that relationship with the media. So to be curt, to be rude, that's not our role. Our role is to help them, and try to get them. Sometimes, there's not a lot of information you can give, especially when it's a pending investigation, and there's not a lot you can say, but, we're transparent about that and say, this is all I can tell you right now. Feel free to file a public records request. We'll get you information as we can, that kind of thing. And I think most reporters, if you explain to them, why you can't release something right away, are pretty understanding of the whole process and how it works.
Right. Yeah, as long as you get back to them. I mean, I think that's important. If you don't respond to them in one way or the other, they're either going to stop asking or they're just going to turn to other sources, which can be detrimental to the agency in the long run.
Yeah. And I think another way to build public trust is just to be seen and heard, where very engaged with the community with just, having events, and that face-to-face cannot be a substitute for social media. You have to have that face-to-face interaction. So through the community events, and I'll say that from our chief's office to our command staff, sergeants, they're active in the community. They're going to events. If during Asian Pacific Month, if we're invited, we always have police representation at different events. Even with the mosques and things like that, we always have an officer there, or our command staff goes. So to have that face-to-face interaction with diverse groups in our community is so important, more important than just a social media post, in my opinion.
And now, a word from our sponsor. In today's climate, you need to be able to communicate, whether you're communicating to those you serve, your peers, or your constituents. Whether you're looking for professional development or to work with a professional, John Guilfoyle Public Relations has you covered. From crisis communications to website development, visit our website at jgpr.net or call us directly at 617-993-0003 to get started today. We'll help you tell your story strategically. Now let's return back to our episode.
Okay, so Sonu, I saw that you had spoken once about the 7 C's of effective communications. Can you talk about those?
So that is the mantra in the comms world, right? I know a lot of police officers may not have heard of the 7 C's, but in the comms world, it's, I guess, the foundation of any communications office, and we already do it. I'll just explain that we call it the 7 C's, and that is basically the goal of the 7 C's is to ensure that the messages that we put out are clear, concise, and impactful. So basically, the number one thing is clear. So you instead of putting information out in bits and pieces, basically just try to put as much as you can out there that you're able to at that particular moment, right away. Let's see, what else? I don't know if I'll get them all, but concise, courteous, considerate, and concrete. So accuracy is everything. Public trust can be shattered if you put out inaccurate information. So that's why you have to be correct and double check and make sure that the information that you are putting out is accurate. Be concise, stay to the point. You want to make sure people understand your messaging, because that's really the only way to create an impact is just, tell me what you need me to do. Tell me what you're trying to tell me right away. Always be courteous in your tone and be considerate of other people, and being concrete, typically, using visuals, using data to help people understand what it is that you're trying to convey. And I'm going to silence my phone. I apologize for that. So.
Oh, that's okay. No worries. I saw also that you really like using Premiere Pro to edit videos. So can we talk about what do you like most about editing the videos in Premiere Pro? And then I got a follow-up to that.
Sure. So I use Premiere Pro when I have a lot of elements that I want to manipulate, such as audio, because I like the fact that it allows you to play with keyframes, and you can pot up that audio in just the exact moment that you need to, and more so than Canva is great for like visuals and logos and designs and moving things around. So Premiere Pro is just, a little bit more advanced in terms of being able to do a lot more with the video that you have. But was one of your questions what I like about editing?
Yes.
Okay. So, being a former TV reporter, like I'm a storyteller at heart. Not to kind of pat myself on the back, but when I was a TV reporter, some of my proudest moments were, winning Emmys and Moros for some of the stories that I wrote. And I believe that everyone has a story, everything has a story. And I also believe that there is no such thing as a bad story. There's only bad storytellers. So how you tell that story is so important. I believe that a great, powerful, impactful story can be told in 10 seconds, 30 seconds. You don't need to write an essay. And sometimes you don't even need words at all, because a good picture or a good piece of video can tell 1,000 words. Knowing how to tell a story, should you say words? Should you just use a photo? It's just kind of a balancing art to that. And the process of editing is what really brings that vision to life. Using not just words, but also sound, using visuals, is what helps bring whatever you're trying to convey to life. And just seeing that whole process unfold is very fulfilling to me.
Awesome. So do you think that your diverse background helps you tailor messages to diverse audiences?
I think so, because, I've grown up, I'd say, all over the world. So I have an understanding of different cultures, and I don't look at the world through one lens. And even being a reporter, having traveled and lived in so many different states, and having dealt with, people I've interviewed presidents and vice presidents and senators, to people that are living on the streets, people that, have the most downtrodden circumstances, so to speak. So, as a reporter, you learn to cater your tone, your voice, the way you interact with them based on who you're talking to, who you're dealing with. So it's the same as, working with the community. You're dealing with executives of big companies, or you're dealing with, say the transient population or business owners. Like with each segment of society that you're dealing with, you have to have a certain tone. So I think, that really helps, because I'm able to shift that very quickly.
Okay, let me ask you this. How do you handle communication challenges or crises that where misinformation or police or public skepticism comes into play?
Well, I think you have to handle that very quickly. Just being ready to explain what went wrong, or clarify things quickly, so that the false story doesn't get legs of its own and claim the narrative, so to speak. You have to be quick, and you have to have command staff that understands that we need to nip this in the bud. We need to come out and say this quickly. And thankfully, here in Chandler, all of our leaders are on the same page with that. But basically, depending on, what the situation is, not only explaining or clarifying, but if there are actions that have been taken in terms of steps to make sure this won't happen again, make sure that you address that and include that in your response as well.
Okay. Sonu, is there a question I should have asked? And if so, how would you have answered it?
So you know what? I think that a great question, and this is something I've learned as I've grown in my career, is as a communications professional moving forward, is what questions should you ask before you take on a job as a PIO? As when we're interviewing at companies or agencies, whether it's government or corporate, we're just so eager to get the job. We just want to be on the team. A lot of times you lose sight of the fact, what do they stand for? What are they about? Because as a PIO for a police agency, or even for any government office, you have to ensure that their vision and values align with what yours are. And you have to know what your values are and stay true to yourself with that. So I encourage people to ask the tough questions during the interview process as well, because make sure you're going to a situation that you're going to be proud to represent, and that their vision and their values align with what you bring to the table. I think it's really important to know up front, how do they treat their PIOs? Do you have command staff buy-in? Do you have a seat at the table? Are you being included in command staff and supervisor level meetings? Are you being informed of any key changes or movements that are being made within the company? Because, a PIO or any communications professional, we're only as good as the information that is given to us. So in order for us to be successful, it is so key for the executives that we work for to trust us and to be transparent with us, because that is the way we can do our jobs and help the agency. So, and then also for me, it's very important to know that whatever agency I work for is transparent. And, coming from the journalism world, I know firsthand that being untruthful or sweeping things under the rug, so to speak, can really catch up with you later. So, I'm a big proponent of be transparent, nothing to hide. If we've made a mistake, we'll own it and we will move forward, because everyone makes mistakes. So.
Excellent. Great point, Sonu. I really appreciate you bringing that up, because you laid it out really concisely, and I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. So let's switch off to some rapid fire questions, okay?
Okay.
Texting or talking?
I'd say texting.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
Coffee, tea, or energy drink?
Tea.
Adult drink of choice?
I don't really drink, but if I were drinking, it would be like margarita.
What would be your superpower if you could have one?
Say healing people.
Oh, that's a good one. Ask permission or beg for forgiveness?
I would definitely beg for forgiveness. I live life on the edge.
Yes. What place do you most want to travel to?
Anywhere where I'm surrounded by water. So I would love to go to Bora Bora or Maldives or some island where I have a hut.
Oh, my wife and I were just talking about Bora Bora. Yeah. What's your favorite way to relax out after a long day?
I like playing the piano. So I'm a classical pianist, or try to be one. So I just, finding a piece of music that really touches my soul and is a good way for me to kind of decompress.
Awesome. Who would you choose if you could have coffee with any historical figure, alive or dead, to talk to?
I think because religion has become such a divisive thing in this world, I would love to sit down with Jesus and ask him what he thinks of what man has turned his teachings into or made a religion out of, and what he really agrees with and doesn't.
That would be an interesting conversation.
I think so.
Final thoughts, Sonu. What key points would you like listeners to take from today's interview?
I think that we have such important jobs as PIOs, public information officers, communications professionals, and sometimes it can be hard for us to feel unappreciated or undervalued, depending on, the company, organization, or executives that you work for. But don't let that discourage you, because, you have a very, very important role. And a lot of times you're not appreciated until, it hits the fan. So that's when they turn to you and are like, fix it, help me. And, everything we do before, in the preparation for that moment, is building those relationships, creating that trust with the community. And all of that is so important, because don't overlook that part of your job. Like, oh, it's just social media. It's not just social media. You're building that foundation that you're going to fall on when something, bad or crisis happens, because now you've got that public engagement trust already built for you to stand on.
Right. As we wrap this up, is there a piece of wisdom or a motto that you live by?
I've always believed, be the change that you can, that you want to see. So instead of complaining about things, do it. Just ask for it. Make it happen. Just sitting and complaining does nothing. So if there's something you want to change, make it happen.
Great. All right. So as we wrap this up, how can people best reach out to you if they want to connect or follow up?
So if you're watching on LinkedIn, I'm active on LinkedIn. I check my messages all the time, so you can DM me. You can also find me on social media at my first and last name, Sonu Wasu, and send me a message there. Or you can email me at sonu.wasu@chandleraz.gov.
And I will add all that into the show notes so they can find you.
All right.
Sonu, thank you very much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And that was Sonu Wasu from Chandler Police Department in Chandler, Arizona.
Okay.
That's all for this week. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to get notified on the latest episode. If you are listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please give us a review. Any review is appreciated. To support our efforts with the PIO podcast, you can click on the support button in the show notes, and any donation is appreciated. Thank you.